We'll start in a moment. Let's just give 30 seconds to 60 seconds for everybody to join. Okay, hi everyone, and thank you for joining today's session. I'm Mislav from HR Cloud, and I spend a lot of time speaking with SMB and middle-sized companies about their day-to-day HR challenges that quietly eat up time. Today, we're focusing on one of the biggest ones, and that's HR admin taking up too much time. For many SMB and middle market companies, HR work does not feel like one big problem. It actually feels like a lot of smaller tasks that basically never stop, right? So there's chasing onboarding paperwork, there's updating spreadsheets, there is answering the same employee questions over and over again, tracking PTO, checking who completed what, sending tons of reminders on email, on Slack, Teams, and other communication channels. And individually, all of these tasks are small, but when you add it all up, they quietly take a lot of hours out of every week. So today we'll walk through where that time gets lost, why manual HR work creates hidden costs, and how simple automation can help SMB teams save 10 or more hours each week without adding complexity. So let's check out our agenda. First, we'll look at where HR admin time gets lost in a small and mid-sized businesses. Then we'll talk about manual onboarding and why it creates more work than most teams realize. Next, we'll look at spreadsheet chaos, time of bottlenecks, and repeated employee questions. And after that, we'll discuss how employee self-service and simple automation can remove a lot of manual work. Then I'll share a real-world example from Shelter Inc., which is one of our clients, and we'll discuss how HR Cloud helped reduce onboarding time by 60 to 70% for them. And finally, we'll move into a live demo so you can see what this looks like inside HR Cloud. So the goal of the session is simple: show you practical ways to save time every week. So for small and mid-sized businesses, HR admin time usually disappears in small tasks that repeat every week, right? Onboarding follow-up, spreadsheet management, approval chasing, things like that. A new hire sends one form by email instead of sending all of them when they're done, right? Another document sits in a folder. A manager asks if the employee is ready to start. HR checks the spreadsheets, then sends reminders, then updates the status, then follows up again, etc. In some places, it's even worse if they're doing all the paperwork manually, right? So on literal paper sheets, then you also might need to scan and store, etc., right? Uh, Individually, all of that might seem like small tasks that you can knock off fairly quickly, but when you take it all together, they do take hours. Sorry, they do create hours of hidden admin work. So the real problem is not efficiency in the HR team. The problem is that too much of the processes depends on manual follow-ups, scattered files, and spreadsheets that were never really built to manage HR workflows. So what's the true cost of manual onboarding? Well, onboarding is actually one of the biggest places where SMB lose time. Most companies think onboarding means paperwork, but the real cost is the coordination, right? So as we've talked about, just a moment ago, HR needs to send forms, collect documents, check what's missing, remind employees, remind manager, update records, right? And make sure all of that is done before day one. When this runs through emails, papers, spreadsheets, then you're basically managing every step by hand, and that takes time to do. And it becomes expensive very quickly. If each new hire takes several hours of HR time, then every hiring push creates a backlog. Uh, for smaller for smaller teams, this means less time for employee support, retention, manager coaching, and any other high value HR work, right? Because you're spending all of your time manually uh, doing each step of the uh, this type of stuff, especially tracking everything in spreadsheets, works at the beginning, right? So spreadsheets especially, they're easy to create, easy to edit, familiar to everyone, but as the business grows, they become harder to trust. You have one person updating a status, somebody else working with maybe an older version. Time of requests come through email, manager approves it in a chat, right? And then HR has to track all of that and update the spreadsheet manually. And you can't, a lot of the times, you can't really be sure that the information is 100% correct, right? And this all breaks the process. Uh, Spreadsheets are great to store information, but they cannot manage the work for you, right? So spreadsheet won't send reminders, it won't route approvals, it won't track missing items, or show you the full picture in real time. So for SMB, this creates avoidable back and forth every week, and it creates a lot of bottlenecks, right? Especially with PTO and just time of tracking in general. So now let's see how automation can help with all of this. So that's actually one of the fastest ways to reduce HR admin work is to stop making HR the first stop for every uh, small question. And also, of course, as we talked about in previous slides, to stop making HR have to initiate and track all of each individual step manually, right? Now, regarding the employee self-service part. So employees should be able to find policies, complete tasks, submit forms, request time off, update basic information, right, without having to contact HR for any of these activities. Uh, then you also have simple automation to handle the follow-up on top of that. So that way you eliminated a bunch of work that HR people have to do. Uh, Onboarding tasks can also be assigned automatically. Missing forms can trigger reminders. Time off requests can be automatically routed to right managers. Employee documents can be stored in one place digitally, and HR can see what is complete and what still needs attention, right? So that's how automation can help you with all the challenges that we've been discussing so far. And this doesn't mean we are removing the human side of HR work, right? It just removes repetitive admin. We just want to remove the repetitive admin work so that HR can spend more time on conversations, decisions that actually need human judgment, right? Because just sending reminders, it's not something that you necessarily need judgment to do, or a bunch of the other challenges we mentioned really don't require judgment there. So you want to automate as much as you can of that work and allow HR to then actually uh, focus on high value tasks. So let's check out one quick example from one of our customers. So Shelter Inc. is a nonprofit organization with more than 100 employees. They were growing quickly. Now they have more than 100, but when they started talking to us, they were just in the process of ramping up their hiring. They were growing very quickly, and they needed to move away from a manual paper-based onboarding process that just couldn't keep up with their hiring plans. And they faced a bunch of the challenges that we've talked about so far. Before HR Cloud, their HR team spent nearly 5 hours onboarding each new employee. After implementing HR Cloud, that time dropped to 1 hour and in some cases even less per employee. They also estimated that HR Cloud helped save 60 to 70% of the time they previously spent on onboarding tasks. And that's the larger point here. This is not software for the sake of software. It's about removing repeated admin work so HR can focus on work that matters. For sheltering, that means less time chasing paperwork and more time helping new hires get ready to support the organization's mission. So this is where the HR Cloud ecosystem really helps, right? So we give SMBs one place to manage onboarding, employee records, time off, documents, tasks. We allow new hires to complete forms and tasks before day one. Employees can access information and submit requests on their own. Managers can review approvals without chasing emails, and HR can see what's done, what's missing, and follow up only when needed. Right, so the goal of our software is very simple: less manual tracking, fewer repeated questions, fewer spreadsheets, and more time back to HR each week. So let's take a look at how this works inside the software. Right, so I'm logged in here as an administrator, and I'll quickly show you how the automation is configured and how do you trigger the onboarding for a new hire. After that, I'll quickly move to another point of view, which will be a new hire point of view, where we'll see the self-service, right? So how do I complete onboarding tasks? Where can I see important information? How do I make a time off request? How do I access my records, etc.? And then we'll just quickly go back to HR to cover the overview capabilities of the software. And after that, we'll of course have some time for a Q&A. So the automation, sorry. Before we talk about smart flows, let me just quickly show you the forms library, right? So all the paperwork is going to be loaded up into the forms library within HR Cloud, right? So we'll create all of the templates, which will then be used by the smart flows and assigned to new hires, right? Depending on the configuration of each smart flow, which we'll talk about in just a moment. The difference between HR Cloud and something like a DocuSign, for example, is that here you can have both PDF and non-PDF forms, and we need to set up the signing order only once within our software, and then the system will keep using that pre-configured signing order until you go in and make a change. So it's a set it and forget it kind of deal. How does this work with the smart flows? Well, a smart flow is basically a checklist, right? Which is configured with all of the action items that we want people to complete. These action items can be assigned both to employees, but also to HR or to managers or to somebody else. So that way, when the onboarding triggers, the system makes sure that everybody who needs to be notified and involved has tasks to complete. And when we're creating this checklist, this is where we select the forms from the library, right? So if we go to add an action item, we can actually see we can assign a form from the library by just selecting it from the form list. We can request documents, we can distribute videos, and we can also share attachments. So handbooks, policies, benefits overviews, stuff like that. Other modules we can include is notifications. So if you want to trigger an email when a new hire is joining or set up a one-on-one, those are also options. Besides the list of tasks, we select a trigger event as well, right? So let's say if we want an onboarding workflow This will be our trigger event when an employee is hired. And then there are also rules that we can configure. Uh, we can make sure that we are triggering this workflow for all employees, or we can trigger it for a specific subset of employees. For example, let's say I want to use this workflow just for contractors. I could then apply this criteria. And then I create a second workflow for full-time employees, right? Uh, or, for example, let me just go back. Here I have different location-based checklists, right? For Arizona employees, Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, and so on. So that way the system can automatically assign the appropriate tax forms, right? Depending on the location of the new hire. Now, once this is all configured, HR doesn't have to do a lot of work to trigger the process. For example, I'll hop in here into the app, I'll select that, and the only thing I have to do is plug in people's information. I need a name, I need an email, I need an employee number, and just select a couple of more data points like start date, department, location, and position, right? And now the system will compare this information right here to the setup of my checklists, and it will assign the appropriate modules. I can also assign a body as well. We do have a body system. So if, for example, Ron here is going to assist the new hire, show them around the office on the first day or help them with the onboarding and whatnot, uh, that's going to be great. But of course, you don't have to assign a body if you don't want to. It can be optional. Once you hit save, that's it. You've initiated the onboarding. Everybody who needs to be notified will get an email. So if you have tasks for HR or for IT or whatever, they'll get the appropriate notification. The new hire will also get a notification, and they'll follow the instructions in the email. And once they log in, this is what they will see. So I'm now logged in as this new hire, Michael Smith, who we just hired. I'm on the onboarding portal page, right? And right here, I immediately see my profile widget, my task widget, and my team widget, where I can see who's my direct manager and also who's my buddy. And this is the place from which I will complete all of the onboarding completely self-service. And that's very easy to do. So on this tasks widget, I will select the task. Let's say, for example, I need to upload my ID, and I can just attach the document right here. And then I hit complete. I'm doing this presentation from my laptop, obviously, but the software is available on a mobile app. So everything you see me doing here as an employee, you can do from mobile. And if you're completing the onboarding from mobile, whether it's a tablet or a phone, right? That means you can also take a photo. So let's say you need to upload your driver's license, you have it in front of you, you can take a photo, upload it, and complete the task this way. Another task can be watching video material, right? So I'll hit play, watch my welcoming video, and once I'm done, I just complete the task. Then there's downloading of handbooks, policies, benefits overviews, right? Training materials, information like that. And once I download the document, I can complete the task. And if required, we can trigger a follow-up task to sign an acknowledgement form. And I'll also show you the paperwork. So as we've talked about a moment ago, there are PDF and non-PDF forms, right? So this is an example of a PDF form where we have a background that's configured so I can fill in all my information, right? And I can also sign the form digitally. Give me just a moment. Okay, let's do this. Once I've today's date, go. So I filled in all the required information, and now I hit save, and this will be automatically stored in my record, right? So HR doesn't have to collect the form at all. Then we also have non-PDF forms, like this direct deposit, right? Where I left it in a draft status. I think I filled in all the required fields, but quickly reset. There we go. Complete. Oh, didn't add that information. But the same thing applies. Once I add everything, save, it goes uh, into my record. Also, non-PDF forms can be edited to include, or I shouldn't say edited, I should say constructed, right? To include branding and text as well. So the direct deposit was a pretty, stripped down form, but here's a more complex version where we have a title, branding, body, with rich text formatting and fields to collect the information, right? So you can build any form that you want. Another part of the self-service can be collecting emergency contacts and also collecting personal information. So as a new hire, I can go in and plug in my social securities, my demographics, or contact information, or whatever else is required. Uh, right? So very straightforward, right? So I log in, go here, do my tasks. If I need to check out my record, I click here, view profile, and I can see all of my information, my forms and documents. My team is here, check out my manager, check out my buddy, get in touch with them if I need any assistance. And then on the portal, you can also have text information, right? So information about contact, for example. You can store photos, you can store documents, so policies, benefits overviews, things like that. You can also store link to third-party websites or apps and videos, right? So orientational or training videos perhaps can also live here. And the data that's stored here, the ordering of the widgets, which widget types are being shown, that's all customizable during the configuration of the software. So you don't have to worry about uh, you can create an experience that you want people to have. Now, besides the onboarding part, let me show you how easy it is to make a time off request. Sorry. There we go. So if I hop here into the time off app, and this can also be done on the phone, right? I will have all of my different types of leave I can make. So let's say if I want to, and of course, these are all configured right during the setup, and they can be anything. But let's say if I want to make my vacation request, right? I hop here, and now the only thing I need to do is I need to select the start and end date. So this guy's taking a bunch of time off. I can add a description, and there's also a box for attachments. So for example, if this is a sick leave, let's say, I can immediately leave my doctor's manager here and view while approving. I'll hit save. And there you go. I've made my time off request. It's here on my time off calendar, on my personal calendar, together with holidays. It's listed here as an upcoming time off, which is pending, because this has to be approved. So it's routed to the manager. And once the manager approves, I'll be able to see it. I can check out my balances right here. Also, my requests are all listed, so I can take a look whatever I want to. But for the balances, I also have the information right here in the overview tab. So I don't even have to leave this tab to check this out. And I can do it on a mobile phone, right? So when I'm interested about any upcoming time off I have, or any, what my balances are for PTO or whatever, I don't have to contact HR. I can just hop into the app and check out the information right here. Okay, so quickly going back as an admin view, right? So I have complete overview of what's going on, have an overview report, which gives me overview tasks by role, by assignee, by individual task. I have an onboarding breakdown, which I can filter by department, location, or some other criteria. And I also have very detailed reports, like a task progress report, which shows me all of the activities by status. And then I can filter them, I can group them, search information so I can really pinpoint what I want and then follow up appropriately. Of course, once you create a bunch of these reports, you can save them and refer to them with one click. So it's even easier to find the information that you're looking for, right? You have to log in every now and then to just check out and make sure that people actually are doing what they need to do, or maybe you have to follow up. And of course, if you need to check out somebody's record, that's also straightforward. If you click on their name, you can pull up the record and check out all of their information here in one place. Employment details, compensation details. If you've added sections for your, to track the information you want to track, like in my use case, I needed to track certain expiration dates, so it's added here. I've also scheduled some reminders, so I don't have to spend time on that, right? But of course, this is all customizable, so it's adjusted depending on industry and other client needs. Here is the personal information. Emergency contacts are here, and I can access all of the paperwork and the documents as well from this one place if I need. So as you can probably already guess from the demo, and I'm risking of sounding like a broken clock, but as you can see, doing this can address everything we've talked about during the presentation, right? All of the challenges that require manual attention from HR. So no more spreadsheets. You have the onboarding is completely tracked, the PTO is tracked, right? If you don't want to check out an individual's balances, but you want to get like a spreadsheet view, no problem. You hop into the app and you can see everybody's balances for all of their different time of types, right? So how many vacation, sick leave, bereavement days person has, and so on. No more manual task assignment. The system takes care of that. You just need to plug in your hire's data in the system, and then the self-service also takes a lot of work from HR's hands because the employee does things on their own, his or her own, right? Another thing, you don't have to you review individual requests anymore. If you're a manager or if you're HR, because you'll have also a shared calendar view, which will show you when people requested PTO. So that also saves you time because it's easy to see if there are any overlapping requests during a month or a week as well. Okay, awesome. So let's now hop in to the Q&A portion. Oh, sorry. I apologize. It looks like I accidentally exited the presentation. Sorry. Probably hit the touchpad on my laptop when I was showing you the software. I apologize. But let's go into the Q&A portion. Okay. So let's see what are our questions. Okay, so we have time for 4 or 5 questions, something like that. So let's see. How long does it typically take to implement HR Cloud for a company? For a standard SMB company, right? So typical implementation for a company up to 100, let's say something similar to Shelter Incorporated, the client that I used as my example. So for them, for a company of that size, it takes 2 to 4 weeks to implement. Okay, let's see if we have any Other questions? What if our managers are resistant to using another system? Okay, that's a really good question. This can happen, especially for people who have been long with the same company and they're just used to using the same tools for the like 10 years or 5 years, right? Then it's really hard to get them to adopt new technology. This is going to require top-down or leadership participation, so to speak, because ideally you'd like the HR admins to roll it out and to keep people accountable. But the best way, in my opinion, or not just opinion, but also I think experience has confirmed this, at least for HR Cloud clients, is that uh, since the system is highly customizable, you can configure it so that a person with a certain role, like a manager, doesn't see a bunch of widgets or noise on their screen. When they log in, they see only information that's relevant for them and the actions they have to do, like approve a request or kick off new onboarding, is very, very easy to do, and it can be trained in like one session. So ideally, you'd do a training session for the managers, maybe even record a few 2-minute, 3-minute videos with basic instructions, and then allow them to use it for a couple of days. And they should adopt it. Sorry if the answer was a bit long-winded, but hopefully that answers the question. Okay, let's see. How does HR Cloud handle time off approvals if we have multiple manager or departments? Well, that's another good question. And maybe I didn't mention this during the presentation, but just like the time off policies and forms and smart flows, etc., all of that is customizable, and this applies also to approval workflows. So during the setup, we'll just simply need a list from our clients who tell us, the approver in a case where PTO is requested is the department head, or it's always going to be the person's manager, etc. And then we can set up one or even multiple approvals to make sure that under certain conditions we are routing the approval to the appropriate person. And the approval can also have multiple steps. Okay, let's do a couple of more questions. We still have a lot of paper-based processes. How difficult is it to move everything into HR Cloud? It's not difficult at all. Also, we are not expecting our clients to move everything on their own. They work with an implementation specialist who does the configuration and the data transfer working with the client. So their implementation specialists they're very professional. They'll develop a roadmap for the implementation, share it with you so you'll know exactly which steps you're going to go through and on which steps are you in at any given point in time. And they will also share all the instructions, so all the information that they need from you in order to do the data transfer. So you're not actually doing the data transfer on your own. We are doing it. You just need to provide us with the information that we need in a couple of discrete steps. Hope that answers your question. Okay, let's do one more before we go. What if we only hire seasonally or in hiring waves? Does HR Cloud help manage large onboarding volumes? Okay, that's another great question. And the answer is yes. So HR Cloud has no problem managing large onboarding volumes. Permissions in the software can be adjusted, so anybody can trigger the onboarding if that's required. So you can have a bunch of managers triggering onboarding in their teams at the same time. Or if you prefer one person doing it, that person can create a spreadsheet with all the new hires information and import it into the software. So they're not plugging in everybody's details one by one. They can just do a bulk import and trigger a bulk onboarding for everybody. That's no problem at all. Another thing is that we do have out-of-the-box integrations with different ATSs, for example, and we also have an open API, so we can even connect to a third-party ATS that you're using. So when you hire the person, we just pull in the information automatically and trigger the onboarding by using that extra layer of automation. Okay, I think those were all of the questions. So again, everybody, thank you for your time today. One final takeaway, which is going to be very simple, is that SMBs do not need a massive HR transformation to save time. They need to remove the repeat admin work that slows HR down every week. When onboarding documents, time off, and self-service is in one place, HR gets time back, as I've tried to demonstrate during today's session. And once HR gets time back, managers got better visibility and employees got a smoother experience. Uh, if you'd like to see how HR Cloud can help your team save 10 or more hours a week on HR admin work, our team can walk you through a personalized demo based on your current processes. Feel free to contact us at hrcloud.com or reach out at sales@hrcloud.com. Hope to see you soon.